It shaved off 1,000 years of manuscript transmission and let us see what the Hebrew Bible was like, what scrolls were like around the time of Jesus and the disciples.
All these other elements, the Dead Sea Scrolls, correct me if I'm wrong, have actually helped to fill in some blanks and actually show the depths to which people can trust some of these texts. In November, it makes it that much more interesting because visitors are going to have a chance to actually see some of this content for themselves.
Every generation believes it understands the past. Timelines feel settled, maps feel complete, and the major turning points of human history appear fixed in place. But every so often, archaeology produces something that does not fit: an object, an image, or a structure that refuses to sit comfortably inside the accepted narrative. These discoveries are real. They are documented. They have been studied, cataloged, and in many cases, quietly set aside. Not because they are hoaxes, but because they raise questions that existing models cannot easily answer. Taken individually, they are treated as anomalies. Taken together, they suggest something far more unsettling: that human history may be far more complex than we are prepared to admit. In the dense jungles of southern Mexico, one of the earliest civilizations in the Americas left behind monuments that still challenge modern engineering. Long before the Maya, the Aztecs, or any later empire rose to prominence, the Olmec were carving colossal stone heads from solid volcanic basalt. 17 of these sculptures have been discovered so far, scattered across present-day Veracruz and Tabasco. Each weighs between 10 and 40 tons. Some stand nearly 10 feet tall. What makes them extraordinary is not only their size, but the logistics behind their creation. The basalt used to carve them came from the Tuxtla Mountains, more than 50 miles away. The Olmec had no metal tools, no wheeled transport, and no domesticated animals capable of hauling such loads. Yet the stones were moved across rivers, swamps, and dense tropical terrain, then carved with astonishing precision. The faces are not generic. Each head is distinct, with unique facial features and carefully detailed helmets or headdresses. The stone is exceptionally hard, yet the surfaces are smooth and finely finished. Modern experiments suggest that shaping basalt with stone tools would require thousands of hours of labor. Still, there are no clear tool marks, no evidence of failed attempts, and no surviving infrastructure explaining how these monuments were transported or erected. Their purpose remains unclear. Many scholars believe they represent rulers, placed in ceremonial centers to project authority and permanence. Others argue they had religious significance, serving as guardians of sacred spaces. What is certain is that the Olmec possessed organizational, artistic, and engineering abilities far beyond what was once assumed for such an early civilization. Centuries later, across the Atlantic, a single piece of parchment would ignite one of the most bitter debates in modern historical scholarship. In the late 1950s, a medieval map surfaced depicting a landmass labeled Vinland, west of Greenland. Known today as the Vinland Map, it appeared to show part of North America nearly 500 years before Columbus. The map's geography was uncannily accurate. Greenland was shown as a separate island, something most medieval maps did not recognize. The western coastline closely resembled Newfoundland and Labrador. If authentic, the map would confirm that knowledge of the New World existed in Europe long before the Age of Discovery. Scientific analysis only deepened the mystery. Radiocarbon dating showed the parchment itself dated to the mid-15th century, but tests of the ink revealed traces of titanium dioxide, a compound commonly associated with modern manufacturing. Some concluded it was an elaborate forgery. Others argued contamination or later restoration could explain the results. The debate dragged on for decades. In the early 2000s, Yale University, which housed the map, announced it was a fake. The map was quietly removed from public display. Yet even that conclusion failed to resolve all contradictions. The parchment is medieval. The geography is accurate. The ink appears modern. How those facts coexist remains unexplained. In northern Australia, another mystery has endured not because it was hidden, but because it is protected. Scattered across the Kimberley region are ancient rock paintings depicting figures known as the Wangina. These beings are shown with large round eyes, pale faces, no mouths, and halos or crown-like shapes around their heads. The paintings are believed to be thousands of years old, possibly dating back to at least 3,800 BCE. Unlike most ancient art, the Wangina figures have remained stylistically unchanged for millennia. Each generation carefully repaints them, preserving the original forms exactly as they were. To the Aboriginal custodians of the land, the Wangina are not symbols or myths. They are living ancestral beings responsible for rain, law, and balance in the natural world. Scientific study of the paintings is extremely limited. Access to many sites is forbidden. Photography is restricted. Requests for advanced scanning or sampling are routinely denied. As a result, the Wangina remain one of the rarest things in archaeology, a genuine ancient tradition that modern science is not permitted to fully examine. In Mesopotamia, long before written history began, another civilization left behind artifacts that still defy explanation. The Ubaid culture, which flourished around 5000 BCE, produced small clay figurines unlike anything seen before or since. These figures have elongated bodies, narrow limbs, and distinctly reptilian heads. Some depict females holding infants, both mother and child bearing the same reptile-like features. There are no written records explaining their purpose. Later Sumerian texts make no reference to such beings. Scholars have proposed symbolic interpretations, ritual costumes, or mythological hybrids, but none fully account for the consistency and anatomical detail of the figures. Most of the original artifacts are now locked away in museum collections, some lost during periods of conflict, making further study nearly impossible. On the opposite side of the world, prehistoric Japan produced its own enigma. Over 18,000 clay figurines known as doge have been discovered across the Japanese islands. Many feature large goggle-like eyes, segmented bodies, and patterns resembling suits or armor. Some appear almost mechanical in design. Mainstream archaeology interprets them as ritual objects, possibly connected to fertility, healing, or spiritual protection. Yet their precision, symmetry, and consistent design raise questions about how such complex forms were produced by hunter-gatherer societies thousands of years ago. Many of the most significant examples are classified as national treasures and remain inaccessible to detailed study. In the deserts of southern Peru, the Nazca civilization etched enormous designs into the landscape. Lines, geometric shapes, animals, and humanoid figures visible only from the air. Among them is a figure carved into a hillside known as the Nazca astronaut. Unlike other geoglyphs, it stands upright, staring outward, one arm raised. The purpose of the Nazca lines remains debated. Some align with astronomical events. Others appear connected to ritual pathways or water-related ceremonies. The sheer scale and precision of the designs suggest careful planning and advanced surveying techniques. New discoveries continue to emerge through satellite imaging and artificial intelligence, revealing that the full extent of the Nazca landscape is still unknown. Deep beneath the jungles of Ecuador lies another unresolved mystery. The Cueva de los Tallos cave system is vast, with smooth-walled chambers and long, straight passages that some explorers have described as unnatural. In the late 1960s, an explorer claimed to have found a metal library inside the caves, engraved plates containing knowledge from a lost civilization. A massive expedition in 1976, involving scientists, soldiers, and even astronaut Neil Armstrong, officially reported finding nothing unusual. Yet details of the mission remain vague, and access to the caves is now heavily restricted. Indigenous groups consider the deeper chambers sacred and forbidden. Modern exploration is effectively impossible. Ancient India offers its own challenge to conventional interpretation. Sanskrit texts describe flying machines known as vimanas, vehicles capable of aerial travel, powered by unknown forces, and used by gods and heroes. These descriptions appear in some of the oldest epics in human history. In the early 20th century, a text called the Vaimanika Shastra surfaced, claiming to describe the construction and operation of these machines in technical detail. Most scholars consider it a modern composition, yet the concepts it describes, energy systems, propulsion, materials, continue to intrigue engineers and historians alike. Meanwhile, many of India's most ancient temples remain off-limits to advanced scanning, officially for preservation, unofficially fueling speculation. Even medieval Europe left behind images that raise uncomfortable questions. In several Christian artworks from the 14th and 15th centuries, strange objects appear in the sky above crucifixion scenes, metallic disc-shaped forms with figures inside them. Art historians describe them as symbolic representations of the sun and moon. Others see something more literal. One of the most famous examples is preserved in a monastery in Bosnia, where access to the original manuscript is tightly controlled. Similar imagery appears in Italy and the Balkans, always dismissed as allegory, yet never fully explained. Individually, each of these discoveries can be explained away. A symbolic tradition here, an artistic anomaly there, a misinterpreted artifact, a lost context, an incomplete record. But when viewed together, a pattern emerges. Across continents and millennia, ancient cultures repeatedly produced objects, structures, and images that suggest a deeper understanding of the world than we typically allow them. These are not fringe fantasies. They are real finds, studied by professionals, stored in museums, protected by governments, and often quietly removed from public discussion. Not because they are false, but because they complicate the story. History is not a straight line. It is layered, fragmented, and incomplete. And every so often something surfaces that reminds us just how much has been forgotten, or perhaps deliberately left unexplored. The past, it turns out, is not finished with us yet.